a trial tax, okay? The farther you take the case, the further you push the issues. Like if you file a motion to suppress, they'll actually make your plea deal get worse, okay? So are incentivized to plea out early rather than later. So, oftentimes, if her office doesn't do this, shout out to her, by the way. Like, I prefer that. Like, we should get all of the evidence, and we should get all of the discovery. But in many situations, the prosecutor will actually penalize you. It's like, do you think, for example, that the Proud Boys would have gotten the same penalty if they had taken a plea? Of course not. Do you think that they would have gotten the same sentence if they had taken a plea? Of course not. They would have gotten, a fraction of the time. So
okay, another day, another bougie-ass member club. Hey, let's do this. We'll holler on the way over there, all right?
Then would it have been acceptable for them under a plea? Like, should it be, triple, quadruple what the penalty was, the original charge? Like, they were willing to put these guys in prison for 5 years. Why is 25 years appropriate now all of a sudden? Because there's more charges there, and they went to trial, so the penalty just suddenly needs to be much worse? It's a trial tax. And so I think that probably happens in here. It's all prosecutors, and even if it's not a written policy, as it was here...
Okay, shit, wanna run us through it, Imani?
So we're gonna need the club security footage. Job 1 is find the club surveillance room. Job 2 is break in. Then you're gonna use the USB I gave you to get into the archive and send the footage back to me. I'll scan it for a lead, then hopefully we can pick up the trail of this data.
Alright, for sure. Shit, we on it.
It's illegal. All the drugs are out. Prosecution is in a position where we are going to probably dismiss the case because we can't use the evidence against you. Or the judge is going to say, yeah, them 3 kilos, they won't come in and the search was good. And then they're going to say, hey, what's the best deal that we can get? So we're kind of in the normal place of the process. And so I'm not at all surprised about where we are, how many pleas have been taken in that case. I think we're following the normal course.
We saw you for the first time in court and revocation hearing for Harrison Floyd. And I think somebody told me that they see you in court more often.
Ask her why she was.
So just to correct the record, when we were in a pre-indictment stage in this case, I did appear in court. But you're speaking post-indictment. I told somebody recently, and I think it's true, and you'll probably appreciate this more than other reporters, I don't think anyone should ever be surprised if DA Willis enters a courtroom. That's like not something that's a surprise to me. So I agree. That's not a straight answer, I guess, but I don't think anyone should be surprised if I walk into the court to defend any case that I have.
Your name's on the indictment?
My name's on every indictment, so ultimately my assistant district attorneys are carrying out my duties and responsibilities.
Do you think it's possible you make an appearance at trial, whenever the trial comes?
I think it's very possible.
Yeah, you better.
Hearing with Harrison Floyd, it seems, involving, threats against witnesses, it seemed almost personal for you. Do you feel a heightened level of responsibility when it comes to the safety of some of these witnesses?
And are you mad that you lost?
Well, I feel a heightened sense of security when it comes to my witnesses in all cases. I would not say it's personal, but it is at the front of my mind in terms of business. This is not the only case by any stretch of the imagination where we very much worry about threats. That kind of goes back to our first part of our conversation. We are living in a time in America where there is a lack of respect for authority and there's a lack of respect for the process. That hit home the largest for me.
You better believe it. There is. Yeah, your authority, you guys have made a joke of the justice system. That's your own doing. Why did you try to indict and prosecute your partisan opponents? I mean, that's obviously insane. So, yes, you've made a joke of the system yourself, and we're going to call you out for it. And we'll see how much authority you think you have and how this whole thing goes, because it is slowly unraveling before us. You have one sentence apologies.
Earlier in maybe last year now, someone threatened our sheriff. And that seemed crazy to me.
That's
because your sheriff in any county is your most important law enforcement officer, right? They're your chief #1 law enforcement officer. But to me, the reason I bring that up is it just shows what a horrible place we are at when people think it is okay to threaten law enforcement officers who risk their life to protect you. And so, yes, I take it very, very seriously when people get doxxed, which this week in a trial, not the one you're referring to right now, had law enforcement officers doxxed.
Okay, not the Trump one? Great. What are you guys doing about that? You melting down about that one? You're going to gag everybody in those cases?
Personally, as you know, have been doxxed, which for your listeners and viewers who don't know what that means, it means that someone will share your personal information, meaning your home address or your business or your telephone number, so that people can intentionally harass you. And that's been done in cases that this office is bringing, in cases the Attorney General is currently bringing against different law enforcement officers here, against city council people in my city about another case. So, yes, I think you can hear the passion in my voice. When people threaten people that are just coming forward, being good citizens, doing their duties, it is a very important thing to me, and it's something we are not going to tolerate.
Okay.
Speaking of threats or perceived threats against witnesses in this case, we had one of the defendants
Okay, got the footage. I got it leaving the club in a limo. Let me just check who it's registered to. Damn.
What now?
Shell company. Complete dead end. Except if... Sweet. The plate got flagged speeding on the traffic camera network. Last known location with you now.
Damn, good shit.
Now, did she have the same protective order issued against her? She says she's patient. All right.
Office has requested an August 5th trial date for next year. We have the special counsel in the D.C. case going to the Supreme Court right now asking for expedited review. It's possible that case could be delayed. It's possible. It's possible the New York case could be delayed for some reason and the classified documents. If there is an opening before August the 5th, do you think you would be ready and willing to step forward here?
So we would be ready and willing. I always say, stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. So the state would be ready and willing, but we have to go through that natural process that we talked about of hearing all of the defense motions, hearing all of the state's motions, having final plea. But the date that we asked for was respectful of our sister jurisdictions, and so we considered that those dates were already set. And so I wasn't going to go in and ask for the same date that was set in another jurisdiction. But, I am aware that there are things going on elsewhere in the world that could delay this. But certainly, as you said, there might be openings, and it would just depend on where we were in the process, meaning have we gone through all of those other necessary steps. If we have a new judge in this case, and I think he's been criticized for being a new judge, but what I watch him do in this case, just in all cases, is seems to be managing his calendar very, very efficiently. He's having dates, holding people accountable, jumping in and trying cases, and so I think that's lucky. Not every judge is that efficient, and so I think it's lucky for all the parties involved that you have a judge that moves their calendar along efficiently. I'm sure if he sees an opening and he's made sure that everyone's rights are protected and we've done all the motions, that it's something we may set back. But obviously,
I'm not sure if that's true or not. August dates in the middle of an election season. Give me a break. Okay, so that's Fanny. Now, I'm sure she continues to talk on, but we can only tolerate so much. So she has an interesting take on some of these issues. Really doesn't want to comment on it. It is the standard sequence of criminal prosecutions. As far as she can tell, they're still pushing for an August trial date. She doesn't have much comments on the prior plea deals. We think that they were a joke since she doesn't have any actual convictions, and this is what the actual apology looks like, a one-sentencer, and then a defense of actions by Mr. Scott Hall. And so we've got some questions now about these other cases. Fanny got asked about SCOTUS and Jack Smith and moving those trial dates around. We know that Jack Smith is appealing directly to the Supreme Court to see whether they will find that Trump has, or in Jack Smith's opinion does not have, presidential immunity, or claims that the motions for the cases to be dismissed based on double jeopardy and other things. This is Bill Kristol saying that, SCOTUS isn't going to save us. We're so petrified against Donald Trump that we've been relying on somebody to take him out. Jack Smith filed 2. Fanny's got 1. Bragg's got 1. Bergdorf Carroll is civilly suing him. Tishy's taking away his business attemptedly. And Kristol is getting a little bit nervous about this. Here's what he sounds like.
So I think the Kristol likely reject Trump's immunity claims if they take the least kind of off the police federal indictments and charges. But this probably delays, I was talking to lawyers yesterday, about a month or two, the actual trial going ahead, even if the Supreme Court ultimately rejects Trump's claims, just because the judges pause the depositions and discovery in the trial, as I think she probably has to while this thing is on appeal. So I think that actually we're going to have a trial meeting March 4th, looks less likely, maybe April, maybe May, with the trial, even if at that point, as Trump said, hey, we're in the middle of the presidential campaign, I'm the nominee, basically. Yeah. We'd be the nominee for Republican Party. We can't have a 2-month trial here, it's not fair, and let's just put it off till after the election. So I'm not much more, I'm anti-Trump just to go wrong. Cartels everywhere, you know that.
Alright, shit, follow that limo.
And don't let them see you. Looks like someone got out since the car got flagged. They would have taken the data. We just need to see where it goes.
If it comes to it, take his ass out. Grab their ID and bring it back to the fucking office.
Oh, so they are starting to recognize the truth on these things. And did you like how he said that the judicial system is not going to save them from Trump? I said, what are you talking about? What kind of country are you living in that the judicial system should have any say in who governs the country, right? They are neutral judges, but they are using, right, the courts as political tools. And Bill Kristol's in on it. I thought he was a Republican like a long time ago or something like that. Weird how the tides change. So that's Kristol. This woman was over on MSNBC, and she is very happy with how these cases are going. She says, I think that what Jack Smith is doing is pretty brilliant. It says you can read more about it on their website, but here is MSNBC's analysis on how this works.
I think Jack Smith's filing actually was pretty brilliant. His strategy has been really brilliant to try to cut Donald Trump from this delay strategy.
Anything that the Supreme
Court about it. Trump's lawyers insist that the Constitution's take care clause made Trump an all-purpose policeman obliged to interfere with the certification of President Biden's electoral victory. This is a particularly odd position because the 12th Amendment to the Constitution lays out specific roles for Congress and the Vice President in the electoral certification, but not for the President. So talk about this just for a moment, because it is slightly unusual for the Supreme Court to skip the D.C. Circuit before them. But it's not completely unusual, right? And is this a solid argument on the part of Trump's lawyers that somehow interfering with the election is part of his job?
Right, so we're pivoting from the Fisher case, which is about the January 6th charges, and now turning to Trump's efforts to delay this trial altogether by arguing that he's immune from prosecution as a former president. What Jack Smith has done here is basically said, we can't wait for the Intermediate Appellate Court to make a ruling here. That would take too long. This country needs to know whether one of its candidates...
So this woman's name is Melissa Murray, and she is, wow, she wrote a book called The Trump Indictment, the